Everybody's good? Thumbs up? All right, cool. All right, so why don't we get started? I guess first off, I hope everyone is doing well. I mean, we have, it's a crazy time that we're actually pulling together a meeting like this. I mean, obviously the first time ever this has happened for our league. But obviously a lot more important life stuff, work stuff, family stuff that's going on. So hope that everyone's families are doing well. We'll walk through a number of things tonight. And as Brett mentioned, if you guys could just mute your lines for a couple of minutes as we go through some of the format for the call is we're going to go through it. We'll have a Q&A. So if there's anything that I'm talking about, just make sure to type that in and we can address that in the Q&A. We'll open up all the lines at the end anyways, but just type that in and we can address that at that point. And if any assistant manager or someone can't make that, this is being recorded, so you can forward that along afterwards. So we got together as a team with Dowie and Powers and Rudy and Kyle and Curry last week, the other day, and kind of went through some of the items today. So at least we wanted to have a structure that we had some things that we could talk through, and this is kind of some of the results that we're going to need your guys' feedback on that as we look ahead. So, from an agenda, we want to talk about the season, what's happening with the potential start date, which, we don't have all the answers, right? No one has all the answers, but we at least went through a framework of how that potentially could work, going into the season, what's driving that, talk a little bit about permits, what's happening there. We're not starting the season on time. There's some budget items that are impacted. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We've been going back and forth for the last week a little bit about an idea of how we can help as a league. And, we'll talk about that also. And then we'll go into some of the Q&A. All right, let's talk about dates. So all this stuff is really tentative, but we really wanted to try to think of when's the earliest we could start, right? So this is kind of a structure that we were kind of thinking back of, if we work back, right now, May 4th is the date that everybody can go back to work and life can resume. We'll see what happens with that date, but that's the current date that the state of Massachusetts has set, with the work at home order, and we'll see what happens when that happens. But let's just use that date for an example. So May 4th comes, people go back to their offices, all the city workers, people start to work back on the fields again. We're not going to get permits that day, right? It's going to take a little bit of time for that town staff to get back up, get back to normal, start to issue permits, figuring out who's going to get which permits, high schools, little leagues, all that's got to be organized. And we can't think about it on, one town might act quickly, but another town might take a couple of weeks. So we're saying right now, we don't know, right? It hasn't happened before, that process is going to take potentially 1 to 2 weeks, which leaves us saying, all right, well, if it's 1 to 2 weeks, that's about May 18th that those permits come to the league. I'm probably going to be a couple of stragglers. We got to work, 40 plus teams with the new schedule that we got to work through, which is probably going to take about a week, which brings us to May 25th. And now you give another week. After that, that's also Memorial Day weekend. That brings us to a potential start date of June, that first weekend in June, of June 5th to 6th. But, thinking of that May 4th date, we don't know. That might move out, right? Or there's other things that come up. So, the end result is thinking probably whatever date that is, we should probably be safe to add in. I don't want to say be safe, but we're currently adding in and approximating 4 weeks from that date to start the season. And with the idea of that time, maybe there's some permits that come in, and maybe we can start to use some of those. I mean, heck, no one's seen each other, no one's played any baseball, no one's swung any bats, worked out at all. That should be some good time to actually get together with your teams, scrimmage, and just get outside again. So that'd be a good time to practice and scrimmage. But again, thinking of that 5th, 6th date, other risks and factors around that, of course, is we don't know what's happening with that May 4th date. May shift out. Fields, I mean, even little details like who's working? I don't know who's working on the field. We don't know who's working. The field's even being worked on at all. Is anyone cutting grass, laying lines? And we're going to probably take a back seat to some of the high school permits. So all these things are variables that we haven't seen before. We're going to have to work through. All right. So thinking about a schedule. I mean, we talked through it the other night, and it's going to be really difficult to keep the same number of games. We expect we're going to have to cut some number of games off the different age divisions schedules, and I mean, we won't go into it here, but it's something that each commissioner will work through the age divisions with you to work down some of those, to work down a potential schedule, what that might look like. But if we think about it this way, our normal schedule generally goes from late April through late September. The current thought or plan or best case is if we work with what we talked about on that past slide of starting early June, and maybe we extend out a couple weeks to mid-October, maybe even a little bit later than that. That means we'd have a net loss of about 3 to 4 weeks of the season. So if you're playing a couple of games a week or it's one game a week, you're talking 3 to 6 games potentially off the schedule, maybe more. I mean, we got to think about the rain. Do we start on time? So, these are just expectations. We got to think about that. We will have some number of games that are going to end up being cut from the schedule. The exact number that's going to be worked through. All right, thinking about from a cost perspective. So, we've had the deadline of the April 1 for payments for teams. We're going to extend that out to May 4th. I mean, guys, some guys are having challenges, right? I mean, like not having jobs, they got to pay for baseball, and obviously not knowing when things are going to happen. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. So that's going to get extended out to May 4th. But like in terms of like the cost, what you can expect, we're going to have to reevaluate this once we figure everything out. But fixed costs stay the same. Like we bought a whole bunch of baseballs, right? So like we already bought those baseballs. Stuff like insurance, like that's something that's a fixed cost. If we don't use all the baseballs, you actually have some extra baseballs to use towards next year. So it's not like it's a loss of anything. It's just more you'd move that forward. Did want to mention something about the insurance. We're about to work through paying for the renewal for this year, and we just held that back. So we put that renewal on hold, and we did that because we really don't know we're planning, right, that we're going to start in June. Well, what if we don't start in June? We don't need to insure the season when we don't have a season yet, right? I mean, hopefully we're going to be playing again, but in the event it's not, something happens, it's better not to have to spend $4,500 on something that we don't need at the moment. So we're going to hold on to that insurance renewal, and the minute we know that we're ready, we're going to kick back in and pay that and get that insurance going, which just means that any of the certificates that you have now, you're going to have to replace those once we kick into the and get that renewal back in. So just keep that in mind. The variable costs are obviously things that are not those are going to be variable, like things like permit costs of the fields. The umpire fees stay the same, but your number of games, right? So if you go from 24 games down to 18 games or whatever that is, you're paying for permits for 18 permit dates and 18 umpires as opposed to 24. So that's gonna decrease. So that's just how you can kind of plan your season so far. So we're going to talk a little bit about something that our league has just been truly amazing with. I remember Brett Rudy started this crazy idea of 100 innings. Brett, how long ago was that?
Mute myself. Right around 2004 was right when Kurt Schilling was coming to town. Or was that 2008?
I don't know. It was a long time ago.
I mixed it up with the World Series, but yes. So the first several years we did that event, we were raising $100,000 a year, and now we're up to almost $750,000 raised overall for that game. And we were trying to think of what we could do as a league to give back as a result of what's going on right now. You know, we're a Boston-based league. This is obviously hitting Boston heavily, and Jeff and I and the rest of the board, we were trying to think about what we could do to give back as a league.
Yeah, so based on that, that long-standing history of giving back and helping, we found a local charity, Heal with the Mail, and that we're gonna help out with the COVID situation. So our plan right now is for each team, which would be added to the league fee, would be $100 per team. So we're talking about $4,000 plus, which would go into this Heal for Meal. Now this is optional. So if you don't want to be part of this and give back, that's fine. You can opt out, and we'll take that off the list. But we want to try to do something as a league. Again, you can take it off here, and you don't have to pay that as part of the invoice if that's something that you don't want to be part of. But we, thinking that we want to be able to do something and give back as a league. We want to do this, and frankly, I think we will probably do better. I mean, individuals can donate individually into this cause, and just under the league name. And we're going to get a video together as a public service announcement where we have some players. We're going to put this together. So Brett and I work on different videos. So we're going to kind of use our experience to pull together a video of players kind of playing virtually in some way, throwing the ball to one another and announcing a PSA. So look for that, details on that over the next couple of days. But we want to try to get that, get that filmed and out there. And we've been talking about this for a week and kind of getting this going. And I think we're all thinking about COVID. And I know some of you know this, and I guess I'll talk about this right now. It's kind of, for me, hit home a little bit over the last, the last day, in that my dad just went to the hospital from a assisted living facility, 78, wasn't feeling well, and he tested positive yesterday for COVID. So it's something that's affecting us all, and hopefully he's going to be all right. He's like, oh, I'll be fine, I'll be good, I make it through everything. So he's 78 though, right? He's got underlying condition, and I'll tell you something, these health workers are friggin' unbelievable. Like, I'm talking to a health worker, I can't go to the hospital, right? I can't go see him, and he's like, we might be able to make an exception if it comes to a time where, like, it's going to be the last time that you potentially talk. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen. And I started asking him about, what about the, what would I wear, a special suit? What's the risk factors? I'm thinking of my family and my kids and all that. He's like, you know what, you could wear the same stuff that we have. And here I am in my head thinking of my own family, my kids and my wife. And here's this guy that's like helping, like he's helping everybody without like that's just part of his job. And I'm like, this guy is just amazing. And like trying to feed these medical workers and get them, just make their lives a little bit easier is, these guys are just heroes today. So we want to try to do something for these guys and make it right for them. And also number two, the second great benefit is by feeding them, we're supporting local businesses that, there's a lot of businesses in trouble today. So we got to work together to try to help these guys. So we're going to do a public service announcement, and we're going to try to help out as much as we can as a league for them. So I'll talk through one more thing, and then we'll open this up. For your players, the MSBL National, and maybe there's some things we want to do as a league ourselves, but they have for the gamers out there, there's a PS4 tournament going on. It's happening Wednesday and Sunday nights, and there's more information on MSB National. So if either any of you or your players want to get involved, they can do that. So that is everything from your leadership team that we put this together. So right now, why don't we open this up for questions? If you guys want to open up your lines and just start asking, and we can try to address as we go along.
Jeff, what's your concern of the final deadline of saying, okay, they've pushed us off too far, we're not going to have a season? When do you anticipate that date? Like, what is the date that's the cutoff? Like, we won't be able to get this in. I mean, that's the question.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't, we didn't really go through what that date potentially might be. I mean, if you look at May 4th, it was a June 4th. I mean, at any point we could kind of look at it and say, all right, it's probably as we get throughout the summer, I would think. I mean, like if it's July, you know, if
Say it's
it's like
10
August
games.
15th, then that's probably going to be a little bit too late.
Right. And say if it is a 10-game season for the 28 plus, right? 10 games, and it rolled through that, right? Then you guys could figure it out from there. But I've got players on the team that I've got 6 guys that said they're out this season because they work in the healthcare industry, and they said, nah, we're gonna pass this season. So that income for my team alone, with the reassurance of when we actually could start, has impacted my team specifically. So I was asked, okay, when's the final cutoff? And even then, if it still is around, there still are concerns for those, especially myself, because if I get sick, there's a few things that'll happen. One, I'll be in the hospital with respiratory issues. I have a low immune system due to the medicines that I take. And if it catches me off guard to the point where, you know, I could be one of those statistics with a big D. So the guys asked, I'm asking the question of like, what's the cutoff date? Obviously, there's preventatives that we can do, but.
Jeff, can I jump in for a sec?
Yeah, go right, jump in, Mike.
So I've been calling around to different cities like Somerville, Medford, and even a little bit of Boston. And, you know, the state mandate was May 4th with the expectation of potentially going back to work or school, what have you. I don't foresee the city's fields being available that particular day. Rod, you can speak to this as well. You know, we put in for permits back in January, and we never got any feedback yet from the city because, you know, once we rolled into February, you know, they kind of shut things down a little bit. So I know that, like in Somerville, for example, my brother works at City Hall for the mayor. You know, they're still considering maybe having the kids do school for the rest of the year from home. Now, what that means with the fields, I don't know. So I think it's going to be, you know, based on what the governor says, and then each individual city as well, if they're going to open things up and be able to fix the fields in a timely manner. You know what I'm saying? I think the thing we have to look at is, as individual leagues, like I do the 38s, is to talk to the guys and say, hey, you know, I got dates here. You know, if we start on May 11th, we can probably play the full 16 games. If you get into, you know, a couple weeks later, we're talking 14 games. You get into June 1st, we're talking 10 or 12 games. Now, do we want to do that? Do we not want to do that? That's what we got to kind of figure out. And like Jeff alluded to, we may even be able to, you know, talk to the guys. If we want to go a little bit longer, maybe go into the early parts of October. You know, we got to find enough teams are willing to do that, which we normally have. You know, this is a different situation. It's very unique. So I think we just got to kind of all figure that out. I mean, I know in the 38 perspective, I can speak for probably half the teams. We'll play until it snows out. You know, we don't care. But we also got to be smart about it and do something that makes sense. We're not going to play 16 games if we start, you know, July 1st. It doesn't make sense. So I think, you know, the big picture is it's really a lot of, you know, wait and see, as bad as that sounds. But if we do get into a later date, then obviously there's going to be an issue with timing and people are going to start losing interest or doing other things. So we really got to, you know, there's no time frame we can give you. It's just a matter of wait and see, you know, as bad as that sounds. You know, I feel your pain. We all do. I mean, that's the best I can offer, at least on my end.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we kind of know as much as all of you guys do. You know, we're watching the same press conferences and hearing the same news that you're hearing. And the reality is nobody knows anything. We don't know when we're really getting back, and we don't know when permits are going to be issued. And I think what it's going to come down to, frankly, is when we do know all of this, then the individual divisions can get together as smaller groups instead of all, you know, 40 of us right now, and figure out if they can do. I mean, the reality is, I think if teams could play 4 games, they'd play 4 games. I mean, people just want to get back on the field and do something, anything. And I think the idea is if we can get outside and play some ball, we'll play as many games as we can, even if it means there's no playoffs, even if it means we're just going out there and playing pickup ball for 4 weekends in a row because that's all that's left in the season. We'll find a way to get outside. And I think it'll just be up to the divisions to see what makes the most sense to them based on when the data is and when we actually can speak more intelligently about this. We're kind of just guessing right now, and we could make up scenarios, but the reality is it's made up, and in a month we'll be talking about it again. So what we tried to do at the board meeting the other day, and Jeff presented it today, is we tried to come up with a best case scenario based on what we know today. Best case scenario is we're all free on May 4th, and if that happens, this is what we'll do. But if that changes, we'll just have to figure it out.
Right. And I talked to the athletic director up at Mascoma High School in New Hampshire, and they lease out a lot of the fields to the softball organization that I'm like a part of when I go up there. And they have closed all the permitting. They said that they don't want it to spread. They said, nope, we're going to close it off until this is over. And that's their way of trying to keep it from spreading. Now, my wife's uncle's a congressman in New York, and we've asked directly, what can we expect? Because he's a family member. And he said, you're going to deal with this till August, at least till August. And my mother-in-law, who's the head anesthesiologist up at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, said the same thing. She's like, people are underestimating this problem that we have. And you could be fine right now, Brett, and not have any symptoms. And you could go to the grocery store to go get something, and then next thing you know, you could have it, or you could be asymptomatic. And until it gets resolved, like you said, it's a day by day. So until we actually know, there should be some type, and I think that there should be some type of, okay, this is as far as we can go until the schedule doesn't make any sense. Obviously voted upon because of safety is number one. This could be around and do a whole circle and come right back, and affect people in ways that could potentially, like Jeff's father, for instance, and he's going to be great, right? He's going to push through this. But someone that is my age that may have some type of immune issue, could have to bail out and have to forfeit the season. If it came down to us having to forfeit the season, I've talked to the guys about potentially donating half of their fee for the team to donate for us to donate back into the system, such as you're donating back to the RNs, the doctors, the nurses, some type of charitable thing as part of it. Obviously, we have the league fees that we have to take care of as well. And obviously, paying that with minimal guys is going to be hard. So, but I mean, I'm just waiting for you guys to kind of make a decision. So,
hey guys, can I jump in a second?
Yeah, great.
So I work for the Commonwealth. I'm still going to work every day. We have the restrictions in place until May 4th. I got 158 people in my office. I'm down to 17 maybe that are coming in. Everyone else is remote. And I think we're preparing probably for June, mid-June, for them to actually be able to come back in, and maybe another week for us to get acclimated and actually start our business again. So I think 5-4 is optimistic. I mean, from what we're hearing, it's incredibly optimistic. So I think, we look at it as what the governor says right now, but every day this changes, it gets worse. They expect the surge the 10th through the 20th. So there's no way I think we're going to be able to do anything. Clearly not April 27th, but I think 5-4 is also a little aggressive.
Yeah, I think everyone probably on this call is in agreement with that date, right? That's why we try to look and say the best case, but it's probably not going to be that, guys. I mean, that's probably a best case, but it's probably not going to be that. And That's why we looked at, say, all right, whatever that date is, it's probably 4 weeks after that. And when does that become too late that we can't do, we have to do something else, right? That answer is not here yet. We can address that as that comes, but.
Yeah, we benefit. Our field is turf, so no one has to go out and cut it. They just have to turn the lights on for us. But a lot of everyone else, probably maybe one or two of you, everyone else is dealing with grass and upkeep, and how quickly are they going to be able to jam the old guys in there on Monday nights? Never mind the high schools, the Babe Ruths, the Legions, all the rest of them. So I just want to let you know what's going on in my world, so that May 4th is probably not a date we should be looking at. I'll go back to you.
I think they're going to, when we get to May 4th and life isn't returning to normal, that's when they're going to cancel school for the rest of the year and switch to distance learning.
Yeah, Isaac, that was all off the record, by the way.
Don't worry. I already knew it all. But Sherman was talking to somebody from the governor's office today, and they say May 4th is beyond optimistic, and that mid-June, if not later, is probably when things are going to happen. I know Brandeis today called me. They canceled everything through the end of May, and they are preparing to cancel all of their bookings for June. So it's probably going to spread. But as Jeff has said a bunch of times already, everybody in Massachusetts and in Rhode Island too is dealing with everything in 2-week increments from where all the benchmarks they set. So when we get closer to May 4th, they're going to push it out to May 18th, and then they're going to do another 2 weeks from there, and another 2 weeks from there, and another 2 weeks from there. And we're just going to exist in this limbo. So I think to have like 3 plans potentially is really the way to go. And I understand what George is saying about needing a cutoff date. And it's a tough one, because at what point do we say it's too far? If we could go into mid-October without killing ourselves, we probably could. But how does that impact the fields? Like, I know for us, Brandeis stops being available the second week of August, and we probably lose some others too. So that would become an issue.
I think Pinner, you had some ideas on like tournament style potentially, right? Like if that's we had to get into that in the fall. I think we had a fall league at one point. We had like an unofficial fall league with players at some point. So maybe that's another option. I mean, these are all things we're gonna have to look at and evaluate, as we get a little bit further.
Yeah, and Jeff, it's going to be different for everyone who does it.
Yeah.
Because everyone, like the MAB, or the younger guys, they have a longer schedule, correct? Like I know the 38s, we have 16 games, where I think the younger kids play probably 20 or 24, maybe something like that. Is that correct?
24 in the 18 plus.
Yeah. So that's a different situation as well from, like, say, the 38s with us. Looking at my calendar here, the 38s, we can realistically start the week after July 4th and still get 8 games in, which would be playing each team once each and still have somewhat of a season. But again, that may be that'd probably be the farthest I would want to go with it personally, just because it gets ridiculous at that point. But it's still summer ball, and we'll still have time to get 8 games. But where the 18s, I don't know how you guys would do that. Then again, you also play multiple nights, correct?
It's still mostly weekends. There's maybe
Okay.
5 or 6 weeknight games.
Okay.
But again, I think it comes down to, at some point, it's, scrap the season, but that doesn't mean we have to stop playing baseball, right? So let's pretend it's the end of July. That doesn't mean we couldn't just schedule 6 or 8 games in the next 2 months, and we play some round robin style pool play for 2 months and then have a playoff bracket in October. Like, I think that when we find out when we're back on the field, we figure out the most games we can make work, and then we make it work. Even if it's not a traditional season as we know it now, why couldn't you do it? Why couldn't you do an 8-week round robin tournament, and then just have a playoffs out, a finals after that. So there's like lots of different scenarios that we could work out, but I feel like talking through them now, it's kind of just premature a little bit because we don't know anything.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
The only thing I'm gonna go back to again is at what risk? Like, at what risk, when the season happens? I know my fall, winter hockey, they've canceled already. Just because they decided we're supposed to start hockey, July, and they've already canceled the season. And the reasons for that is they just said it's not worth the fees. It's not worth the payment. It's not worth the potential. Because that's what it's going to come down to, is being a potential. Just at what risk, especially being in the health industry. My wife's a nurse, and so she sees it daily. And precautions are precautions, but all it takes is one slip up, one grab of the wrong groceries cart, and I saw a guy at the Big Y down here in Walpole, had gloves, a mask, everything like that, and he's there with his cart. He opens up a bag of chips and starts eating with his rubber gloves on. Like, you just touched something and you're eating it. People like that are what's going to cause us our issues. And I want to have a season, but more than anything, and to at least get guys together. But at the same time, with family and the health industry and the things that they're seeing and what's going on, I mean, I've got a brand new baby girl and I've got a 3-year-old son, and I don't know if something bad could happen. And I know that there's guys on our team, the same deal. One guy delivers packages for FedEx. We all know him. His name is Carl. And he is constantly like wrapping up and buying stuff off Amazon just to stay safe, just to work. And if something happened to him at a baseball game because of this stupid virus, and yet he's been safe all along, just so we can get together and throw the ball around. It just takes one guy to cause this to circle right back around, And I would rather wait and play like an end of the year type back and know that we're all 100% safe, because some of you guys may get it and hate to say it, not survive it. And some of you guys may get it and it may cause you to spread to your family. And you may not have an issue with it, but someone else in your family may suffer from it, unbeknownst to you. Your parents, your grandparents, everyone says, okay, you're allowed to go out and have fun. But as soon as you come together, and 2 weeks ago I got tested, but I was at the grocery store last week and now I have it. A lot of questions stir.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, quick question, based on what George was just saying, if we do play games and this comes back on and we do start seeing people get sick or what have you, from a league standpoint, are we negligent for that? Do we have any issues legally because we started playing baseball? Granted that the city and everything else approves us to be allowed to play, but is there any issue that comes back on us overall?
Considering this has never happened in the history of modern time,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay. And it's maybe something you want to consider looking into, maybe, I don't know.
Hey, maybe now would be a good time to look at revising our waiver.
And how about insurance? If something happens like that too, the waiver.
I mean,
this comes back to the towns and the cities, the liability for these towns and cities. That's why they might not allow anybody to play on their fields during the summer. So it really comes back to what the towns say about their fields. But you got to think that in the back of their mind, they're like, geez, we're going to have 30 people, 40 people at the field, and this still hasn't been cured yet. I mean, we got to take a chance here, and I don't think they want to do that.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You wouldn't think they would do that. They're going to have an abundance of caution.
I mean, look, the bottom line here is we're not doing anything until the CDC, the state of Massachusetts, and the local towns say it's okay. And at that point, individual managers can decide if they want to take that risk too. So, and we're not going to be able to answer any of those questions today. So, I don't know. This is just my opinion because this whole thing's freaking me out. I'm sure it's freaking lots of you guys out too in different ways. But part of what I think we can do today is at least give ourselves some hope and say if if we're able to salvage some part of the season, what could it look like, so that at least we give ourselves some hope to get through this. I think Raz had a good idea, the idea of October Madness. I probably just made it up on the spot, but you want to talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's the same thing as like March Madness, but I'm talking about all the teams, and you seed them all the 18s, the 28s, and the 38s. You play a number 1 versus a number 16. You go by records, and I mean, you basically play for the whole month. And I think, it'd be a great idea. I think some teams from the 18s can match up with the 28s, or vice versa. 38s can match up with 18s, probably. I don't know. It's just an idea. Again, I know it's long away, but if we want to play and we only have a month to play, that's not a bad idea.
Anybody else with any thoughts or ideas or?
It's an open forum for everyone to get out their thoughts. I mean, George, you've had a lot of great points. I mean, everyone's had some great points as we try to.
Yeah, the only drawback with October Madness is, are guys really going to want to sign up for a 1 or 2 game season if it comes down to that, right? You lose, you're done.
You have a loser's bracket.
I mean, and the other thing is you could make each series a 2 out of 3, so at least it extends it. And you can make it
guys who want to see some kind of guarantee of number of games.
Well, I mean, it sounds like we still don't know, right? So there should be, everyone should kind of think through. I mean, there's probably a lot of really good ideas we could think about for what happens if we get to that point. But again, it's a lot of what if, right? So maybe we can all think about that offline. And if we have another meeting like this, I assume we probably will at some point, over the next month, we may have to start really seriously discussing what this looks like.
I agree. And one thing we can think about is we can all take a guess at when we think season might start. It's called wideband Delphi theory. When you don't know something, ask everybody and average what they do. Throw out the high, throw out the low, and average everybody else's guess. And my guess is, like other people have said, we're probably not going to get on the field till June if we're lucky. Probably more like beginning of July, given everything, right?
Yeah, and Omar, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I understand it. We're all nervous about what's going on. I'm nervous. We all are. We all have families. But I feel like we need to prepare as a league just in case we're going to have a league in June. So let's say we don't prepare for June. Once June comes and everything, God willing, is safe for all of us, now we're going to be running around to get this league going. And that's my biggest concern. Like, I understand family first. I'm a family guy. I love my family. The last thing I want to do is go play baseball and come back and get my family sick. But we also have a league that we need to try to run and understand that, and try to be a little bit more positive and think, you know what, things are going to get better. We're in the United States of America. This is the best country in the world. We're going to figure this out. But what if in June they say, we're ready to play ball. We can go outside. Everything is, see you later. Now everything's back to normal. Now we're going to scramble to get the season going. You know what I'm saying? I spoke to a couple people who run different leagues, and they're preparing in case the league is going to happen. Now, let's say we prepare, and now we're ready for the league to happen, but we can't play. Now we go back to the drawing board. But if we're not ready to start this league, now we're going to, like I said, we're going to scramble at the end of the day. I already collected the fees for most of my players, and for me to say, like, my guys need, for me to just say, you know what, I'm going to give everybody their money back and see you later. If I do that, we're not playing at all this year. If I do that, but I feel like as a league, we need to at least have a structure ready for just in case. Let's say we don't know what's going to happen in May. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But let's say,
Omar, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
Omar, we do have a plan in place. I don't know if you were here in the very beginning of this meeting, but Jeff.
I thought it started at 8. That's why I showed up at 8. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, Jeff kind of laid out what we're going to do. He, basically, we're going with May 4th, but we all know that's probably not going to happen. And he laid out how it would take a couple weeks to get the people to get our permits, take a couple weeks for scheduling. So basically our plan is that whenever we get the go ahead to do it, that you're still probably looking at 3 to 4 weeks out. So we do have a plan if you know, they all of a sudden say we're good to go.
Okay, then I apologize. I thought the call was A. I apologize.
No worries.
Omar, you're absolutely right, Omar.
I put this
We're
up.
going to run through a wall for you, Omar. Don't apologize.
Yeah, no.
I'm pumped up now.
I want to play, guys. You know, I miss competing against you guys. I miss playing the game of baseball. I'm going crazy in my house. You know, it's going crazy. So I want to play ball, guys. But at the end of the day, I want all of us to be safe. You know, I want all of us to be safe. I would hate for any of us to be sick because we're playing baseball. You know,
So I got a question. If I mean, I love how Omar is like the passion, bro. I mean, it's great. The realistic idea of like starting in the mid of the month, because what I would like to see, and it would be kind of an uplifting idea, is if you had it staged for each month. So at the end of this month, right? Say if we started within a 2-week time period in the beginning of May, right? Here's how many games we could play. Here's what your fee is going to be to the league. If we started in June, here's your fee. Here's how many games we can play. If we started in July, end of July, beginning of July, like having that tiered. Okay, all right. Here's what you're going to pay. Here's how many games we could fit in possibly, and basically say, here you go. Now I was thinking about calling the Waltham town mayor, the mayor themselves, and find out what's the deal, until I saw her on the news freaking out about workers, that I've got guys working in Waltham in doing residential work, and she wants everything shut down. She doesn't want anyone working. So, but Omar, I definitely agree with you. I mean, I want to play. I also want to be safe, just like you said.
Absolutely.
But we want to have some kind of like something to tell us, okay, here, if we get the game started in May, June, July, August, like here's how many games we could possibly play. And then, you know, here's the cutoff. And if we ended up having and saying, being really like over cautious, like everyone probably should be, and saying, all right, we're going to play a round robin tournament style, like I do for states. Okay. I play in co-ed softball and men's league softball at states, U-Trip and everything. And we do a states tournament, right? And we set up, there's 20 teams, and we play through everybody. And we play through a weekend. You're just constantly playing. It's like the 100 innings right there. So you get guys together for like one entire weekend and just play. That would be the last resort, right? Absolute last resort. It'd be fun as hell. And we could actually raise money too towards some other fund. But I would like to see something from the league saying, okay, here, if we have this end of this month, if we start, here's what we got, right? And back to what I was saying is, you know, sometimes probably won't even give us a permits, and that's a concern. So then what happens if towns won't give us permits, like in Waltham, they won't give it to me, right? They say, no, we're closing it down. All right, no more than 10 people, and for you to get a permit that we're gonna have, you know, 15 guys on this field, on this team, and 15 guys on this team, that's 30 people in one spot. They're gonna be overcautious. So, but I'd like to see it tiered. Let me know what my payment's gonna be, because I may not have enough guys. You know, I may have 9 like last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think as Jeff showed at the beginning, I mean, the biggest savings are going to be your team fees, because you're not going to have to pay umps for games you don't play, and you're not going to have to pay permits for fields you don't use. But the league fees, for the most part, are fixed. I mean, the largest expense by far are baseballs, and they're already here. So we're paying for them, you know, regardless. So I think that's just the reality of the situation, is that if we play, the league fees will be mostly unchanged, with the exception of the umpire in charge fee will be reduced, because Walter won't be assigning as many umps, but that's not a very huge cost per team. And insurance will go down because we won't need the fields for as long. But aside from those 2 expenses, everything else the league fees, we still pay them.
So
It's-
the $1,700 that we pay for the season is basically, we have to pay that regardless?
I mean, if we cancel the All-Star games, we don't pay for the All-Star games. If we
Yeah.
cancel the banquet, we won't pay for the banquet.
Right.
So, there are certain things that if we cancel them, we cancel them. But, we're still paying for baseballs, and it's the biggest expense by far. We'd still be paying for insurance. 400 hitter, we're still paying for. You're still paying web hosting fees for our website. Like if you look line by line of what the expenses are for the league fees, those things don't really change. It's the team fees for the most part that go down by not playing games, not the league fee. I mean, for the most part, the league fees are your fixed costs and the team fees are your variable costs.
Mhm.
Um,
My electric bill doesn't change either. So,
exactly.
Hey, guys, can I say something real quick?
What are you
Yeah.
doing in bed?
Listen, hey man, fuck else am I supposed to be doing, man? Listen, my concern is, we're all talking about money now, about these league fees and everything. I don't feel comfortable asking my guys for money right now. Everybody's in a different situation.
Thank
People
you.
getting laid off, people being out of work, shit has to get paid, people gotta eat. That's one thing that I just want to put on the table right now before we start talking about getting permits, signing the league up. That's something we should all think about. I mean, I personally, like I said to you right now, I don't feel comfortable sending out an email to my guys telling them, I need your deposits, your fees for the upcoming season. Because I don't think it's the time to be doing that right now. That's just my opinion.
But the thing happened in March, so I mean, I've been collecting money since December. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I understand people lost their jobs and all, but the league fees were due, what, 2 weeks ago? When was the league fees
April
due?
1st.
When?
April 1st.
April 1st. So I mean,
Yesterday.
we're pretty close to, I agree with you, Robes. Like, I don't ask nobody for money no more. Like, I haven't sent no text. The people that owe me money, I don't reach out to them no more.
I just don't feel comfortable, bro.
No, I hear you. Me neither. But I already collected enough money that if you guys say go, we're ready to go. Both teams that I run, So, I mean, I don't think money. At the end of the day, if we have a league, you got to pay money. Like, the umpires are not going to work for free. The fields are going to ask for money for permits. The baseballs ain't free. Running this league ain't free. So, I mean,
these are the joys of running a team.
Exactly. It's when you run a company,
I get that.
a team,
I get that, but you got to be realistic, man.
Yeah,
Joe.
We recognize that, Johnny, to some, we recognize that. I mean, it's hard to ask anyone for money, at the moment, which is why we, that league fee instead of April 1st is extended right now until May 4th, right? So,
in my situation, I was just going around asking my guys for deposits, just to get everything rolling. And, that came to a halt as soon as my baseball on Sunday stopped. So right now, like I said to you, man, that's the situation. So I don't know if anybody else is in the same boat.
I haven't been able to collect any money from any of my guys for the past month and a half. And
I just wanted to bring that up. And, and in regards to the permit situation, that's going to be a little complicated to do. Like Isaac just told you, we lost Brandeis practically already. And I'm in the hands of Oz, Osario, and Somerville. You don't know what's going to happen there. And I don't know what's going to happen in Quincy. So those are three fields right now in my camp that I can tell you I don't know what's going to happen. So, I mean, those are things we need to think about. How we're going to be able to play baseball, how we're going to be able to pay for it. It's something that's complicated. That's all I wanted to say, guys. Hope everybody has a good night.
And I mean, to Johnny's point, I was collecting for the 38 team up to a point. And then I put it on hold because we have no idea how much baseball there's going to be. And I didn't want to ask guys, Brandeis isn't cheap. I didn't want to ask guys to kick me $400 now when we don't know if the dues are going to be $200. So we had enough on hand to pay the fees, and that's kind of where things have stalled out. And when we have clarity, I'll start collecting again. But I think it is a legitimate concern. If there is a team that's got all of their dues collected right now, please share your secrets with me, because, this This is 15 years of doing this, and I'm never done by March.
My guys pay $75 per month until they pay it in full, starting January.
Good idea. I like that.
I have like 85% of my guys paid in full already.
I mean, I think the easiest way to look at this is we had the May 4th date. Why did we pick May 4th for the money? Because that was also the date we picked that the state of Massachusetts and the CDC would give the all clear. So I think it's pretty safe to say that whatever that date changes to is whatever date the money due changes to as well. So if May 4th becomes June 4th, then the deposit date, then the payment date would become June 4th, because the season's not going to start for 4 weeks after that anyway, right? Jeff already outlined that plan, right? So we get the all clear, and then we get 2 weeks for permits, a week for a schedule, and then the next week the season starts, right? So whatever that date is, we get paid by that date, and then that gives us a month lead time.
Right. Brett, that's basically my plan is once we get that all clear, I'm going to ask my guys to, start paying. As you probably know, I have, mostly young adults who don't have a lot of money. So, I can't ask them for money now.
What happens, and this is a like off the chart question, but what if we pay the league, and then on say May 4th, and then come by June 4th, they say, nope, you guys can't, we got to revoke everything. Now what happens? We're $1,700 or whatever that may be out with no baseball potentially.
We would work something out. We would figure something out. If there's some, whatever hard costs. I mean, the hard costs of the baseball. So we would just have to try to figure out how to be able to cover some of the hard costs and any of those variable costs that wouldn't be. We're not going to keep money as a league for variable costs. So we'll have to figure it out, George.
I think it's way too premature to go through every single scenario in the book when we don't know the answers to all these questions.
We don't know. And we want to try to avoid that, right? We want to try to stick with, all right, what do we know today? We know that there's a May 4th date and try to work with that. Is it likely that date is not going to be, the date is very likely that it's not going to be May 4th, but that's what we have to work with. And I think it's not just us. I mean, other businesses and schools the governor sets that date and everybody is surrounding their activities around that date. And once that changes, everything else around that date changes, no matter if it's baseball or business or schools, right? So, this is the life we're living today. It's unfortunate, but
yeah. And one interesting point is other leagues, they can't play longer because they're based on college play, and when the kids go back to school, their league has to end. So inner city, park, they're all ending mid-August because they have to, because their kids leave. So the advantage to us, if you will, in this situation is that we're not really competing for permits at the end of the season, regardless of what happens with COVID, just because other kids are back. The other thing is, as Jeff said earlier, we've been talking about doing a fall league for years and we just haven't. So in theory, we could start up and play in October and November. I know Kyle Power's been pushing for October and November play for years anyway. But there are opportunities to extend the season, beyond Labor Day, which is what we do now. But again, as several people have said, to talk about every single possible scenario, we're just making things up now. We don't know. George, obviously we want everybody to be safe, and obviously everybody on the phone wants to play as much ball as we can. But my take is we kind of just have to figure it out as we go, recognizing that when we do get the all clear, it's 3 to 4 weeks before we start playing. And I think as long as we appreciate that, we just kind of need to see what happens. Wait it out.
I know we're coming up on time, a couple of minutes left. So any other thoughts before we we kind of wrap up for the night?
I just want to say thank you for hosting. And is there another meeting scheduled at this time, or are you just going to play it by ear?
We don't have anything else currently scheduled. I mean, do you guys like being able to kind of get together? I mean, we should try to do this every 2 to 3 weeks, or kind of an
Cub, I might suggest maybe we do it league by league next time and see what we can do. Then we can sort of get into a level of, like the 18s, talking about what the 18s might do in a 24-game schedule, 28s. I think we probably, rather than having 40 people, maybe cut it down to, the 10, 12 managers might help us kind of build some plans in place.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Are other commissions game for doing that as well?
Yeah.
Mike?
Sure.
I'll reach out to my guys tonight anyway with a follow-up.
All right, so guys, as a follow-up, just everyone, please stay safe, and it's a tough time, but we're going to get through this as a country, as a league, and we'll be out playing sometime or another. Hopefully, it's going to be the season. I'll send out a link to everyone with this if you want to rewatch anything, or if you missed part of the the beginning parts, you can catch up on what we talked about at the beginning, and also we'll send out some information on the the fundraising piece, so we can.
Jeff, can I jump in there for 1 second since you brought up the fundraising? You might appreciate this, and I don't know if any of you are dealing with your kids at home. I got 2 little ones, as you saw. I got 2 older ones, but we're trying to put a structure in place for them. But I'll tell you, we're setting a half hour to an hour aside each day for them to draw pictures, and we're gonna, once we get like 30 or 40 or 50 together for a couple of weeks, we're gonna send them to assisted living nursing homes. So I don't know if any of you guys have that. Not a terrible idea. They fill an hour, and then you can, because these people aren't able to, as you know, Jeff, they're not able to see their family. They're, so the things like be happy, people love you, stuff like that, little messages like that. Sounds kind of corny, but if it's the outside world, it's a pretty good idea, and it keeps.
I'm assuming that would be a virtual type thing. I imagine they probably wouldn't let actual letters get put into a home somewhere just in case they're contaminated.
I don't know. We're trying to figure out how to get them to somebody.
So
on the outside.
Scan them and send them, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a thought. I don't know.
My father is in a nursing home, and my daughter sent him a letter, and he got it. So I don't think they're as concerned about letters as they are about I think the biggest concern, and believe me, I'm no doctor, but is people sneezing around you, people coughing around you. That's why the social distancing is so important. It's not as much as stuff you touch.
Okay. Then how come my wife won't let me touch her?
Well, that's
you gotta figure it out, buddy.
Unrelated.
That's a problem we all have. I mean, they do say that. They do say that.
Is your camera on?
Does live on it for 36 hours. So, that's the contaminant can be on there for 36 hours. I mean, that's why we have to wipe down everything, according to my wife and a bunch of other things. But I think weekly would be great. And I'm going to take a consensus from my guys and see what they want to do. And if it does come down to it, and my guys decide that they don't want to play this year, they'd rather be safe than sorry. What do we deal with it then? What do I do with my league fee then? What do I deal with?
Yeah, good question. Jeff, do we have anything in place with MSBL that states, if the season does end and it doesn't happen, do we not pay them, or how does that work?
Or to add to that, what happens if a team's like, let's say my team, the guys say, no, we're not playing, and what happens then? That's the biggest question.
We'll look into that, to address for the next call. Let's see where we are at that point, because going through all the what ifs is very time consuming and very mentally draining as we try to think for all this, right? So, but great points with all that. So we'll think through that. Well, appreciate everybody's time tonight. Thanks for and everyone for joining. Good to see some faces.
Yeah.
Everybody on the call. Love that. So hope to see you guys on the field soon.
All right, awesome. Jeff, hopefully your family does well, man. We're rooting for you.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Hey, everyone be safe. God bless you all, man.
See you, boys. Thank you.
You too.
You're all in my prayers. Amen.
Amen.